Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Well, I happen to know that my co-host likes to start off any evening with a Manhattan, so he's in heaven right now.
Yeah, I think pretty much anything in the whiskey category makes me fairly happy, and especially with bourbon, it very much traces the history of North America and the founding of the United States as well. Harlen Wheatley joining us, master distiller for Buffalo Trace Distillery in Kentucky, one of the oldest in the United States.
Hello, Harlen.
Hi, Harlen.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming today.
Nice to meet you all.
So tell us, first of all, about Buffalo Trace Distillery and how it all got started.
Buffalo Trace is a distillery that was started in 1773, so we've been doing it for 240 years.
So no pressure when you become master distiller at a place like that.
Yeah, I'm the sixth distiller since the Civil War.
Amazing.
So.
Well, and it is fascinating. I mean, I said it sort of traces the history of the United States as well, and all aspects of that. You guys were one of the only ones to actually stay open, distilleries during Prohibition.
Yeah, we're the longest running continuous distillery, and we were fortunate enough to run for so-called medicinal purposes during Prohibition.
Oh, excellent. And are those medicinal purposes still in place today?
Yes, you can get a prescription for
Bourbon? I need one of those right now. So what do you do as a distiller? What is your job exactly?
My job is to make sure that things are consistent and things are done the way they've always been done. So I'm kind of the, from start to finish, I make sure that all the quality parameters are met and everything's made the way it's supposed to be.
So, I mean, the basic question that I find a lot of my friends have, and I'm going to ask it of you, is the difference between rye and bourbon.
The difference between rye and bourbon are basically the ingredients. Rye, it's a category. So you have whiskey, and then you have bourbon whiskey and rye whiskey, Scotch whiskey, all these different types of whiskey. So rye whiskey is made with predominantly rye grain. Okay. Bourbon has to have 51% corn in it, and the rest grain.
And what properties does that difference make? I mean, the corn especially for you, and I would think part of your job, a huge part of it, would be making sure that all those ingredients are the very best quality that you can find.
That's right. The big difference, we kind of say it's like rye bread and wheat bread. Mm-hmm. Corn is a very sweet grain, so the more corn you add to the mixture, it makes it a sweeter bourbon. And so rye adds a little spice to the flavor and maybe a little fruit character. Yeah. So if you have a rye bourbon that has corn in it and rye, it adds spice to the sweetness of the corn. It balances out each other. So
what is the flavor profile of what we've got right here?
It's
yummy?
Yeah. Well, the Scotch guys say all bourbon is sweet. And that's a true statement. All bourbon is sweet. This is made with rye, so it has that spice. It's a kind of a middle rye. There's low rye bourbons, middle rye, and a high rye bourbon. This is kind of a middle rye bourbon. So it's kind of a well-balanced, down the middle bourbon.
And maybe you can explain the story, Buffalo Trace, and why that is on your label and why that is the name.
Buffalo Trace, we did it in honor of our heritage. We renamed our whole distillery Buffalo Trace Distillery in 1999. And we did that because the buffalo literally crossed the Kentucky River on the site of our distillery.
So that's where they could ford the river and actually survive.
Yep, we started our settlement there, and then the distillery launched after that. So.
Well, and settlers used to actually follow the buffalo because they knew the route, right? They knew where they were going.
So how can one enjoy bourbon? I mean, the Manhattan is what we're going to be preparing today, but what are some of the other popular drinks?
There's traditional drinks like old fashions. Traditionally, Manhattans is a big one, of course, but a lot of people drink bourbon straight. They call it neat. They pour it in a glass and drink it just like that.
So neat is just poured in a glass.
Just poured in a glass.
On the rocks.
On the rocks.
Yeah.
A lot of people add a little splash of water to take off the astringency of the alcohol. Yeah. Just depends on what you're drinking and how you'd like it. So everybody likes a little something different.
You were at an event last night featuring some of the best bartenders in the city, and I'm sure you get invited to these every now and then, and it must be really fascinating and interesting for you to see what people do, with that great base sometimes for a cocktail.
It's where the rubber meets the road for what we do, literally. And we focus on quality and taste. And for us, it's a perfect fit for bartenders because they're looking for quality and taste.
Yeah.
We say that a good bartender or a good consumer for Buffalo Trace is independent, and they're looking for something that's authentic. And we're truly an authentic distillery because we have all the long history and we have plenty of backing behind it.
How long does it usually age? I mean, once it gets into the barrel, and the barreling process is a whole other ball of wax, but how long does it usually sit in the actual cask?
We have products that range from 3 years all the way up to 23 years. So we actually,
what's that 23-year-old like?
It's really strong, a lot of complexity. So we actually have to plan for 23 years from now what we think the sales are going to be.
So what is this one?
This one is an 8-year-old small batch bourbon.
Do you have an idea? I mean, when you actually put it in the barrel, do you have a pretty reasonable idea of what that's going to taste like in 8 years, or,
Yes.
or are there surprises when it comes out of there?
No, we minimize surprises. I
You don't like surprises.
That's why he's the master.
Master distillers don't like
That's
surprises.
right. So what we do is we put the spirit in the barrel, and after 12 months, 1 year, we taste it. So that's part of my
Get
tough
your
job.
idea. Oh yeah, that
Part
is
of my tough job
Poor man.
is tasting. So after 12 months, we taste it, we see how it's doing compared to a standard, and then we do it again after 24. We do it 4 times, up to 4 years.
Yeah.
And then by the time that, we kind of establish that it's on track.
And just let her go after
Well,
that.
we're going to be making a Manhattan today,
Yeah.
the
What do we?
traditional
Yeah.
type.
What do we?
It's easy peasy.
Yeah, it is pretty easy cocktail, and it's quick. It's nice for bartenders, but basically a traditional Manhattan.
Pour this for 1 second.
Yeah, there you go. Traditional Manhattan is made with, it actually started with rye whiskey. That was the intent, but we're going to use bourbon.
Yeah. Well, and it gives a very different flavor. And,
That's
you know,
right.
I mean, obviously,
We'll
it's
do
a
3.
completely different thing.
As
There's
a-
just 3 of us.
There's
you know.
3 of us.
Yeah.
And how do you drink your bourbon when you're
I-
enjoying it?
I like Manhattans. That's the reason we're making this.
Okay.
It's my favorite cocktail.
Yeah.
And I do drink it on the rocks and with a splash of water.
Yeah.
But the Manhattan is my favorite cocktail. So
Beautiful. Well, you're doing a good job so far.
Now
I
you
know
do,
you're not a mixologist. But
it's a straight bourbon, 1 shot of bourbon with a splash of sweet vermouth. And now they do have. I'm gonna estimate 3 drinks here.
It's a splash.
That's kind of a
It's a
splash.
splash each.
as long as it's got the buffalo trace in
That's
it, it's
right.
going to be tasty.
We're using
so-
some
right.
good stuff, so it's going to taste good. And
And
you've got
some
the traditional.
We'll do triple bitters.
Bitters.
So we do
I like the
1,
bitters.
2, 3. That's good enough.
There we go.
And then we'll stir that up.
Give that a little swirl. Oh, we got a long
Yeah,
one.
we got the original.
Look at
So we're going to tell you while we're mixing away here
Get it
that
good and
if
cold.
you want to learn more about bourbon, you can go to Bricks tonight. That is in Yaletown, and they're having a great dinner paired with premium bourbons. And there will be a bottle signing with Harlen at Fort and Foul Bay Liquor Store at 1 o'clock. You can go to the website to find out more information.
That'll be a fun event tonight. Really interesting for people to get
I
an
think
idea of
so.
how it pairs with
Do I
food.
just
and-
put it
Garnish
like
with a cherry.
that?
Beautiful.
Some people put a little cherry juice in there, but there's lots of different ways to make Manhattans. That's what makes it
Definitely.
nice. You can use
Yeah.
dry vermouth, sweet vermouth.
Yeah, you can play a little bit based on your flavor.
Well, cheers. Thanks for
Harlan,
coming to Vancouver.
Thank you.
you.
Real pleasure, man. Nice
you.
to have you here.
Mike, you're just in heaven.
I just, I'm wearing my little apron.